In 2023, USPSA introduced a new division, Limited Optics. And in this video, I go over my equipment I use for limited optics. USPSA brought a provisional division called Limited Optics in 2023. And part of the big pull to put this division in place was because we had a ton of single action guns like Staccatos, MPAs that were non-compensated yet had slide ride optics. And so USPSA made a division for this type of gun. Now, if you were in carry optics prior, you can run in limited optics, because that's an easy way to look up. So essentially you just gotta look at adding either a Magwell and you can run a race holster. It's not difficult because even the mag capacity, everything else is identical, including the ammo you might use. So when this division rolled out, I actually started shooting it with my aardvarks, which were the IDPA compliant DS9s. Now later on I decided to get the barrels ported, and I'll have another video for IDPA specific with that gun. And so I did get excited and bought myself a DS9 Limited Optics. That's kind of the cool thing about Masterpiece, is they do make these specific guns for divisions. And so I took advantage of that with this. And so I'll kind of dive into the gun itself. Masterpiece Arms decided to build their specific gun for this division. In fact, it's called the LOC, standing for Limited Optics Competition. And so what comes with it and what's different from my aardvarks is largely the weight, and a lot of that is found in the steel grips. And the whole weight, when you factor in the optic, an empty magazine, and all this together, comes in at a hefty 57 ounces. This will be the heaviest gun I've used in competition, with my Shadow 2 being at 54 ounces. Now, I know that may only be 3 ounces, but I could tell you this gun feels heavier. The good news is a lot of that weight translates into the hands, and so the gun is incredibly balanced when you shoot it. And if you notice when I flip it around here is that there is a nitro fin here, or a thumb rest. I'm personally not a fan of just pushing down on the thumb rest, not saying that you can't, but the reason for that is I prefer a quicker return to zero. I feel like when I put the extra effort into this, that it would actually slow it down or even cause it to dip. So I personally use it as a consistent index point, and that's great because whether I'm doing a quick reload or I'm in an awkward position, I know that my support hand grip is going to be ideal. Further detail I like about these guns are these shielded safeties. This is great because if you're like me, I do tend to ride the thumb safety very hard. Now that can spill over into the slide and cause malfunctions. I learned that the hard way with my MPAs earlier on last year, and so I appreciate that MPA actually put these on as standard with this gun. And the other things that are kind of unique to this gun too is the trigger pull. Now this one is rated at 1 pound 12 ounces, and they kind of set them around the 2 pound range. So it is a very, 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 very light pull. Just a touch of pre-travel and boom. And so the reset is immediate. Yeah, it's ridiculous actually. And boom. And so it is really meant to be the pedigree gun for this division. And this is what I chose to shoot. I love that they also took a little bit more time in the fitting department, because this gun actually feels a little different from my previous MPAs. When I rack it back, it is just so buttery smooth. Like the other ones were tight and smooth, but they had a mechanical touch to it. I haven't felt this since I actually handled an Infinity, and I think MPA is kind of stepping up the notch in terms of how they fit these guns now. But not to say that knocked down the prior generations or anything like that. It's just a noticeable and welcome change. And the thing is, the better the tolerances you have on these, the less vibration you have, which essentially in your shooting plan form translates to slightly better accuracy. And I validated that when I zeroed this gun, that at 25 yards, I was able to do a 1-inch group with Federal 124. And so not exactly the most optimal ammo for this gun, and this gun just handled it like a champ. Another detail I want to point out is this gigantic mag. I mean, reloads in this thing are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's just, you don't even think about it. And it's there. Now in the future, down the road, as I put more rounds to this, I'll do an expanded review on this particular gun, but I just kind of want to touch on what I end up using for this video. So let's talk about the magazines very briefly. I use MBX 24 round magazine specifically made for this. It fits the 140 millimeter die that they put on this to make sure it's within spec. I can get 24 rounds in this mag reliably. And when I Barney it, that ends up making it 25 in the gun to start. That's critical when you're thinking about certain stages where just having that one extra round may mean the difference between making a reload or not a reload. If you do decide to buy the MPA, it does come with 2 of these. These are ones I bought myself just because I wanted a different color. However, these are fairly pricey. They run about 130, 140 bucks right now. I always pay attention when they have a special so you can kind of get a good deal on these, but you want to replace the spring and follower every 6 months. And I mean, other than that, these things are very trouble-free. They're very easy to take apart if you ever need to them. You just pull out the punch here and you can take the spring follower out if you do need to do a quick cleaning on the... Now in the future, down the road, as I put more rounds to this, I'll do an expanded review on this particular gun, but I just kind of want to touch on what I end up using for this video. So the next thing I want to talk about is my rigging. So if you notice here, I've got two mag pouches. These are the double alpha racers. Now these are the metal ones. They no longer make them. So the plastic ones, I actually have them. They work just fine. They're fully adjustable, like where you can play with it. And the reason for that and why that's optimal is you can get the best angle for doing your reloads on this. I actually have a magnet on the front of that. That's great for unloader restarts because you can just literally, as you're doing it, just slap it right there and go. Now, another thing I like to use it for is if I'm doing a Barney or even doing a load. I mean, I'm typically walking around with 3 magazines, so I'll just leave this one here knowing that this is going to be the mag I load when I do my make ready. The angle on these is important to me because specifically this first one, this angle is meant to be, as I come down, just a nice slap, just pull literally up and right up to my mag. And it makes it easy too because when I actually angle my Magwell to the gun, it's really a much more linear sight. The better that you line up your Magwell to this mag pouch, the higher the likelihood you're going to get a solid reload. This touching on the belt, this is a double alpha belt, and it's a 2-layered approach in the sense that you have an outer belt which holds all the rigging itself, and so you can pull this off at any time you so choose, and an inner belt so you can slap this right directly back on. And it's incredibly sturdy when you do this. And one thing I want to mention too is if you are ordering this belt, you're going to want to order at least 4 sizes larger because you're going to want some room in the back for this to overlap, and you can use the loop to put it together. You're going to need that. And for example, I am a size 38 waist, and so this belt is actually a size 42, and a lot of people can mess this up and buy the actual size, and you'll find that you don't have enough go around to get that tight. And moving into my holster, I opted for the double alpha flex. This is on the higher echelon of what their offerings are, and what I like about it is that the infinite adjustability, and if I decide to travel with this, it's in one screw that I back out and I can pull the main portion of the holster off and set it aside. And that's great when you're trying to stuff this thing in a suitcase and it doesn't fit exactly ideally, but you can play with the height. It's got infinite angles, you can play with it. I have it set with just a little bit of an angle for me. And the reason for that is it's natural for me, as I like to scoop draw, that it just comes right out. That's what you get when you buy these race holsters, is you can do the infinite angles and playing with this as long as it's within spec. And what's great about these too is they have different adapters on the inside, so you can fine tune the fit for this. This actually took me a good amount of time to get that fit right. Once I got it right, it just went to work and goes. So that's a little bit about that. That is the double alpha flex. And then that covers pretty much the gist of my limited optics setup. Now, I will have a link in the description to my website that has links to everything I use. And so that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I have for you today. And if you like this video, hit that like button. And you're going to want to subscribe because I do have an IDPA version if you're interested. And also I have plenty other videos too. If you're looking to do carry optics, I have a great Shadow 2 video on that. So in the meantime, if you guys have any questions or you want to kind of talk about your equipment, sound off in the comments below, and we will see you at the range.